You know, I've been dreaming about you every night, so much that I wake up still feeling you in my arms.
If that's true, why haven't you done anything about it?
Because I'm afraid that once I start, I won't be able to stop.
Who said you have to stop?
If I touch you right now, I won't be able to hold back.
Then don't. Tonight, I don't want anyone holding back.
Are you sure?
More sure than anything. Stop talking. Show me.
The motel smelled like mildew and leftover fast food, cheap soap in the bathroom, a cigarette burn on the bedspread. One lamp in the corner buzzed faintly. I was already pressed between them, one behind, one in front, my back against his chest. The other man's hands were at my hips. Their skin was hot. My body was shaking. The air conditioning was broken. Or maybe I was. One of them kissed me hard, desperate. The other gripped my waist tighter, and I didn't move, not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. I was already too far in. Only if you take turns, I had said. And they had. It didn't feel like crossing a line. It felt like collapsing into something I hadn't let myself want. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't coerced. I was present. I was wanting. That's the part I can't explain. Not to myself, not to anyone. I'm 39, recently divorced, emotionally numb. It had been 15 months since I'd been touched in any way that felt like warmth and not pity. I told myself I was getting better, that I just needed time. But healing gets quiet. It gets lonely. And then two people looked at me like I wasn't a problem to solve, but a flame to step into. You want to know who they were? Ben and Colby. Brothers not by blood. Foster brothers who never quite let go of each other after aging out. They were helping me remodel the cabin I got in the divorce. Long days, dusty jeans, paint-stained hands, quiet strength. Ben was the older one, calm, watchful. Colby joked more, until he didn't. They showed up every day for 2 weeks, treated me like I was human, not divorced, not fragile, not left behind. Just me. The motel came up because of a storm. A thunderstorm hit hard the night after we stripped the drywall. The roads back to town flooded. Ben suggested we waited out at the old roadside motel nearby. He said it casual, like it wasn't loaded. I knew it was. Still, I said, sure. Still, I packed a small bag. Still, I got into their truck, heart pounding like I was 16 again. The room had 2 beds, but I only remember one. At first, it was laughter, wet shoes, Colby complaining about the flickering light. Then a silence settled in that felt warm, familiar, dangerous. Ben handed me a towel. His fingers brushed mine. I met his eyes too long. And Colby, still barefoot, leaned back on the mattress and said, "This night's already weird. Might as well say what we're thinking." I looked at him, then at Ben, and I said it. I still don't know where it came from. Only if you take turns. The silence that followed was short, because Ben stepped closer and Colby sat up. I don't remember whose hands were on me first, only that I was trembling and they both noticed. One kissed my collarbone, the other lifted my shirt like it was a ceremony. My breath came sharp, my legs parted on instinct. There was no talking, just movement, just breath, skin brushing skin, fingers sliding over ribs, the creak of the bed as weight shifted. It wasn't rough. It wasn't romantic. It was urgent, like all 3 of us were holding something broken and didn't know how to carry it alone anymore. I remember the heat of Ben's chest behind me, the rasp of Colby's voice when he groaned into my neck, the pressure of their hands never fighting over me, but holding me steady. One touched while the other watched, and I let them, because I wanted to, because I needed to. I wasn't crying, but I could have. It didn't feel dirty. It felt like being seen, like being wanted so much it hurt. We didn't use the second bed. We didn't talk about what it meant, just tangled limbs, whispered breath, and the smell of sweat in the night air. And somewhere, in the mess of it, something in me cracked open. Cher, what would you do if the only person who made you feel whole again was the one you should never have touched? What if it was two of them? And what if touching them didn't destroy you, but brought you back to life? I don't know what this makes me. I don't know what story I'm telling here. But I know that night in that motel didn't feel like sin. It felt like oxygen. And maybe that's the part I can't forgive. If you've ever reached for something knowing it could wreck you just because it made you feel alive, this story won't be easy. Like and subscribe. Some truths are too quiet to ignore. The week after the motel, I didn't speak to either of them. Ben texted once, "You okay?" I stared at it for hours before deleting the notification. Colby didn't text at all, which somehow hurt more. I told myself it was a mistake, that it happened because of the storm, because of the cheap vodka, because I was lonely and out of my mind. But none of that was true. Not really. I'd wanted them. I still did. The cabin was supposed to be my fresh start. It sat on a quiet slope at the edge of Pine Hollow, half an hour from town, surrounded by trees that blocked out the world. I'd bought it with a little left from the settlement. No running water at first, cracked porch, interior walls that needed gutting. I didn't care. I wanted silence. I wanted something mine. I didn't expect company. I met Ben through the hardware store. He offered to help after overhearing me ask how to patch drywall. Colby tagged along 2 days later with a ladder and a grin. They were kind, capable, uncomplicated. That's what I thought. But kindness has sharp edges when you haven't been touched in over a year, especially when that kindness comes with hands that could lift you like a box of nails, and eyes that look at you like you're not broken, just waiting to be rebuilt. My marriage ended quietly. No cheating, no screaming. Just two people who slowly forgot how to be soft with each other. He stopped asking how I was. I stopped expecting him to notice when I didn't eat. We both stopped touching, and neither of us said anything. The final straw was nothing, just a Tuesday morning when I watched him leave for work and realized I didn't care if he came back. After the divorce, people said all the usual things. Time will help. Focus on yourself. You're stronger than you think. But no one tells you that healing is boring. It's long days of laundry and loneliness, of falling asleep with the TV on just so your house doesn't feel dead. No one tells you that sometimes you'd give anything to feel wanted, even if it's temporary, even if it undoes you later. The day after the motel, I sat on the front porch of the cabin with a mug of coffee and watched the woods. It was quiet, too quiet. I kept expecting one of them to drive up, to pretend like nothing happened, to ask about the next phase of the remodel. But nothing, just stillness, just me, and that emptiness. It was louder than anything else. By Friday, I couldn't take it. I drove into town, stopped by the hardware store just to feel human. And there he was, Ben. He saw me, didn't flinch, didn't smile. He just said, "Hey," and walked over like we were still who we'd been before. "Except we weren't. I thought we were going to finish the trim this week," he said. "I thought you'd quit. I didn't know what you wanted." I looked down at my hands, dry knuckles, chipped nail polish. "I didn't know either." He nodded, said nothing. Then, after a breath, "Cole's been quiet too." I nodded. "Maybe we broke something." Ben's voice stayed low. "I think maybe we uncovered something." I drove home that night with my windows down. The wind hit my face, and I realized I was crying, not sobbing, just leaking, because for the first time in months, someone looked at me and didn't flinch from what I'd become. 2 days later, they were back, both of them, standing on my porch like the storm never happened. Ben had a drill in hand. Colby brought a bag of screws and donuts. "Back to work," Colby said, raising an eyebrow. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. because I knew we weren't just rebuilding the cabin anymore. Something else had started, something I didn't have the language for. That afternoon, we worked like nothing had happened, stripped baseboards, measured new paneling, laughed about the broken outlet in the back room. But every time they passed me, I flinched, not from fear, from memory. Cole's arm, brushing mine, made my breath catch. Ben's voice behind me made my stomach twist. And then it started again, the way Ben leaned just a little too close when showing me how to hold the level, the way Colby handed me a rag, letting his fingers slide over mine a second too long. The air got thick again, hot, heavy, but no one said anything because we all knew what had happened. We just didn't know what to do with it. That night, I sat on the floor of the half-finished bedroom and stared at the wall. My hands ached. My chest ached more because I knew this wasn't over and I wasn't ready to stop it. For the next 3 weeks, they came every day. Ben in the morning, punctual, steady. Colby showed up later, usually after lunch, always with some excuse. Truck trouble, a call from his cousin, an errand he forgot. But I knew why he waited. He didn't want to be alone with me. Not yet. Ben stayed calm, professional, but I could feel the way he lingered longer when handing me tools. And Colby, he avoided eye contact at first, until he didn't. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen to find Colby leaning against the counter. He had paint on his forearms, no gloves, no shirt. I opened the fridge, pretended not to notice him watching me. He said, "You always get this quiet when something's building." I turned slowly. "What do you think's building?" He didn't answer, just smiled sadly. I walked out of the room, but I knew he'd felt it too. We worked on the bathroom next small space. Barely enough room for 2 people. Ben was kneeling by the sink, installing the new vanity. I passed behind him to grab the drill. He reached back without looking and caught my wrist, held it just for a second, and whispered, "Don't think I haven't been trying to forget that night." He looked over his shoulder, but I can't, neither could I. It wasn't that I wanted a repeat, it was that I couldn't stop feeling. Something had shifted inside me, something I didn't know how to name. Not love, not lust, something else, something like recognition. Like we'd cracked some inner wall that couldn't be rebuilt. They were careful now, no touching unless it was necessary, no lingering stares in front of the other, no words that could be replayed. But the silence said everything. Late one night, I sat in the living room alone, TV muted, just the flickering light on the walls, the drywall still unfinished, paint cans in the corner. It smelled like plaster and pine. And then a knock, soft, from the back door. Ben, he stepped inside, eyes scanning mine. "I left my tape measure," he said. I nodded, let him pass, but as he walked back out, he stopped in the doorway. "Are you okay?" I paused too long, then said, "I don't know anymore." He nodded, didn't push, but that one sentence opened something again. Colby was the opposite. He kept his distance in daylight. But when we crossed paths at night, like the time we both reached for the same box of nails in the truck bed, he flinched. "You scared of me now?" I asked, half joking. He looked at me too long. "No," he said, "scared of myself around you." One evening, I offered them dinner. Just something simple. Grilled chicken, corn, cold beer. I set 3 plates. We ate on the porch, cicadas buzzing, air thick with humidity and tension. Colby talked about an old band he used to play in. Ben mostly listened, but I saw the way their eyes flicked to mine, always watching, always holding something back. Afterward, Colby helped me with the dishes, just the 2 of us in the narrow kitchen. I handed him a glass. His fingers curled over mine for a second too long. Then he dropped his hand fast, stepped back. "You make it hard to be good." I didn't answer, because I didn't want him to be good. Not anymore. The tension was everywhere, in the sound of their boots on the stairs, in the way they passed behind me, too close to ignore, too careful to be accused, in the way my breath hitched when one of them said my name, low and quiet, like a memory. Then came the stove moment. Ben and I were in the kitchen. I was making coffee. He was reaching for the overhead cabinet. We turned at the same time, and suddenly I was pressed between the counter and his chest, not hard, not aggressive, just close. I felt his breath on my cheek, felt his hand graze mine. We didn't move, not for a solid 10 seconds. And in those seconds, everything from the motel came rushing back: the heat, the desperation, the way I'd begged for them, like I was drowning. Ben swallowed hard, said nothing, then stepped back like the floor was burning. I didn't sleep that night because I realized something that scared me more than guilt. I wanted it again. Not just the physical, the closeness, the feeling of being known, of being held, of mattering to someone, to both of them. That night, I stood at the window, looking out at the truck in the driveway. Both of them inside it, heads low, not talking, just sitting like they were holding something between them that neither wanted to drop. It broke on a Sunday night. No tools, no work, just the three of us sitting in the cabin with the rain slamming the roof like it wanted in. Colby had brought a bottle of bourbon, said he was tired of pretending we didn't all need a drink. We poured it into mismatched mugs. I sat cross-legged on the couch. Ben leaned back in the old armchair. Colby was on the floor, one arm resting on the coffee table, staring into nothing. The silence stretched too long. Then I said, "We can't keep circling this." Ben looked at me calm, quiet. Colby didn't look at all, just muttered, "Yeah, I know." I stood up too fast, went into the kitchen. Needed space, air, anything. I pressed my palms to the cold edge of the sink, trying to breathe. Then I heard footsteps, felt the room tighten behind me. Ben, Colby, both. They didn't say a word, didn't touch me, just stood there like they were waiting to see what I'd do if I'd run or turn or fall. And I turned. Ben reached me first. His hand slid up the side of my face, not fast, not rough, just sure. Colby was behind me now, close enough to feel the heat of him through my shirt. "I can't do this halfway," I whispered. Ben's voice was low. "We're not asking you to," Colby added. "Only if you want it." He sounded scared. So did I. But I said, "I do." The first kiss was different this time. No motel bed, no storm to blame. Just a choice, a terrible, beautiful, messy choice. Ben kissed me slow, his lips soft but certain. Cole's hands rested at my hips like he was anchoring me in place. My shirt lifted, my breath caught. Then they traded places. Colby kissed me hard. Ben's mouth moved to my neck. Two sets of hands, calloused, warm, reverent, moving in sync. I reached back, found Colby's waist, pulled him closer. He groaned against my ear. We moved to the living room floor, the rug rough against my knees, the bourbon still open, forgotten. Ben knelt behind me. Colby lay in front, shirtless, eyes locked on mine. I was between them again, and this time, no one was pretending. My clothes came off slowly, one button at a time, my breath getting shallower. Colby pulled my shirt over my head. Ben slid his hands around my waist, grounding me. I felt their skin against mine, the heat of their bodies pressing in, and then I let go. Colby kissed my chest. Ben kissed my shoulder. One of them whispered my name. I don't remember which. I only remember how seen I felt, how held. It wasn't just heat. It was something else, like they were trying to keep me from disappearing. We moved like we knew it was temporary, like it was the last good thing we'd get. Colby's fingers tangled in my hair as I moaned into his mouth. Ben's grip on my hips tightened with every movement. My back arched, my body shook, And in the rhythm of it, the push and pull, the way they gave and took and gave again, I stopped thinking, stopped remembering, stopped hurting. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't perfect. It was real, messy, loud. The lamp tipped over, the mug spilled. I cried out, too loud, and bit my lip to quiet it. Ben kissed my back. Colby kissed my chest, and I buried my face in my hands. I came apart in their arms, and they held me there. Afterward, we lay tangled on the floor, our breathing the only sound in the room. Colby stroked my hair. Ben's hand stayed over my ribs. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say, but I wasn't empty, not this time. I don't know what it meant or what it'll cost, but that night I felt whole, not fixed, but seen. And I don't know if I'll survive the fallout, but I'd do it again. Every desperate, human, broken second of it. I didn't see them for 3 days. The cabin sat too quiet. No hammering, no drills, no footsteps in the gravel. Just the sound of wind through pine trees, and my thoughts crawling across the walls. I sat in the kitchen most of the time, not eating, not moving, just listening. Every time a truck passed, I held my breath. Every time a text buzzed, my stomach clenched. But it was never them. On day 4, Colby showed up, not at the door, not with tools, just by the truck. I saw him from the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders slumped. I opened the door, but didn't step out. He looked up, met my eyes, then looked away. I shouldn't have come, he said. I said nothing. He started to turn back toward the truck, then paused. I haven't stopped thinking about it, he whispered. Still, I said nothing. And then he drove off. Ben came the next morning, knocked twice, waited. I opened the door this time. He looked tired, not angry, not cold, just worn. I don't regret it, he said. Not 1 second. I looked at the floor. But I don't know what to do now. I stepped aside, let him in. He didn't move past the entryway, didn't touch me, didn't even sit. He just said, "We changed something, all 3 of us, and we can't go back." Then he left. The days blurred. I walked through rooms like a ghost, touched walls we'd built together, ran my hands over the wood trim they'd measured. And in every mark, every surface, I felt them, their hands, their breath, their weight. I tried to keep moving, tried to finish the painting, tried to sleep, but everything I touched reminded me of them. The house had too much of them in it now, and not enough of me. One night, I drove to the gas station in town just to feel human, to be somewhere with fluorescent lights and small talk. I stood in line holding a candy bar I didn't want. Then I heard it, Cole's voice, low and quiet behind me. "You look tired," he said. I turned slowly. He was wearing the same black hoodie from the motel night, and he looked like he hadn't slept either. "I'm not sleeping much," I said. He nodded. So it wasn't just me. We didn't say anything else. We just stood there in the aisle, 2 people who'd done something they didn't know how to undo. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. The shadows from the trees moved like ghosts on the walls, and I whispered, "What are we now?" But no one answered, because I wasn't asking them. I was asking myself. They came back on a Monday, together, like they'd made a decision without me. Ben walked to the porch. Colby carried a toolbox. They didn't knock. They didn't smile. I stepped out, waited. Ben said, "We want to finish the work, if you'll let us." Colby added, "We'll keep it clean." And my heart broke a little hearing that, because I didn't want clean not anymore. But I nodded. Okay. They were careful after that. Ben kept his distance. Colby stayed quiet. We worked side by side, inches apart, never touching, but every silence screamed. Every glance ached. One night, I walked into the living room and found Colby staring at the wall we just painted. "You okay?" I asked. He turned. His eyes were red. No, he said. I feel like I ruined something that saved me. And I couldn't answer, because that's exactly how I felt too. Ben didn't speak much, but when he did, it landed heavy. We were installing shelves. He held the level in one hand, staring at the wall. Then he said, "You don't have to carry all of it alone." I didn't ask what he meant. I already knew. We finished the cabin in silence. Paint dried. Lights were hung. The dust settled. But inside me, nothing had settled. If anything, it had come undone. Some nights, I thought about texting them, just to say I missed them, not the night, them. But I didn't, because I didn't know if I had the right anymore. I told myself I was healing, that this had just been another wound to move through, that maybe it would fade like the rest. But it didn't feel like a wound. It felt like the only time in a very long time that I had come back to life. And now I'm back to quiet rooms, cold sheets, a house full of things I built, with people I'm not allowed to miss. I told myself I was healing, but this might be another kind of wound. The final day came without warning, no plan, no announcement, just 2 trucks pulling out of the gravel driveway as I stepped onto the porch barefoot, holding a mug that had already gone cold. Ben didn't wave. Colby didn't look back. They drove off in opposite directions, and I stood there, bare feet on the wood we installed together, heart hanging between my ribs like it hadn't found a place to land yet. I told myself I should be grateful the cabin was finished. The work was done, but that wasn't the part I couldn't live without 3 weeks passed. The silence came back, heavier than before. No texts. No "you okay?" No knock on the back door when the rain got too loud. Just me and the knowledge that I'd broken something I wasn't built strong enough to carry. I tried to distract myself, made small lists, organized drawers, painted the back porch with a brush too small, just to make it take longer. But everything I did was touched by them. Every nail I hammered was one of theirs. Every shelf I dusted had their fingerprints in it somewhere. And one night, I cracked. I drove to the motel, the one with the cigarette burns on the sheets, and the vending machine that still ate quarters. I stood in the parking lot like a fool, headlights off, motor running. The neon sign buzzed above me. A single word, vacancy. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Ghosts, maybe. Or a version of myself I still couldn't forgive. I didn't go inside, just sat in the car, gripping the wheel with both hands, and whispered, "I'm sorry," to no one. Because I was, and I wasn't, because whatever we'd done, whatever we were, it had been real. For a night, for a breath, for something in between. I left town the next morning, drove north, stayed with a friend for a few days, tried to forget the weight of 2 sets of eyes that had once looked at me like I was more than salvage. But forgetting doesn't happen when the wrong thing felt like home. When I came back, there was a note on the porch, just a folded scrap of paper under a rock. No name, no envelope, just handwriting I knew too well. "We didn't leave because we wanted to. We left because we didn't want to break you more. But if you ever want us, really want us, you know where to find us." No signature. Didn't need one. My knees gave out as I read it, right there on the wood we stained together. I didn't cry. I just let the paper sit in my lap while the sun rose too slow. I haven't gone to them. Not yet. But I haven't thrown the note away either. It lives in the drawer by my bed, under a flashlight and an old receipt I can't remember keeping. I take it out sometimes, late at night, when the cabin creaks too loud, and I still sleep on one side of the bed, out of habit. And I read it, and I remember the truth. I don't think what we did was right, but I don't think it was all wrong either. It wasn't a mistake. It was a moment, one I'll carry in my blood, longer than I'll carry most people's names. I think about calling, just once, just to hear a voice that doesn't sound like goodbye. But I don't, because I'm not ready. Or maybe I'm not brave enough. Or maybe I already know what they'd say. I reached for them like a lifeline. But maybe I wasn't drowning. Maybe I was dragging them under too. And still, I do it.